Hi, I'm Kalman Kerve and welcome to this video. This one is for the people who are starting at a home office job or about to start a home office job. Basically, I felt the need for this video as I've just witnessed a lot of issues at a lot of people because you might see the lighting is a bit changed. I had to get a day job to be able to pay the bills. So I'm doing the videos now at night and that will have sort of a few negative effects on the videos, but I'll try to work the kinks out as much as possible. So basically, during my day job, I've noticed that a lot of people are quite unprepared for what a home office environment or a home office job requires. So I thought this would be useful to go through a few things like equipment and some of the surroundings and all that you basically need to be able to work from home. Now, in case a company that hired you is providing you with a computer with all the equipment that you need, so they either deliver it to the house or they ask you to take it home, that's awesome. That will make your life far simpler, to be honest. You just need to find the proper place to put the computer and make sure that nothing bad happens to any part of the equipment, because that's going to cost a whole lot if even a slightest scratch gets onto any of the pieces. So basically, first of all, in this ideal case that you get the computer from the company, make sure that the room that you get is quiet. I mean quiet to the level that no dogs are barking, no kids are running around you. And this is especially required in case you have to work on phone, like handling calls through some communication system. You constantly have to be on meetings, or so anyway, a voice channel has to be opened to the outside world. For example, if you're representing a company in any kind of service desk or IT support or anything like that, if the customer hears that a child is screaming in the background or a dog is barking, like really up close, that the dog is with you in the room, that's not going to be positive. That will have quite a negative effect on the company's image, basically, because they will think that, where are these people? Aren't they supposed to be in an office, or what's going on? So please try to get a room where you can be more or less isolated from these effects and especially from any kind of noise hazard going on. Now, apart from that, you also have to pay attention to lighting and ventilation. You might find it a good idea to sit right next to a window. Good lighting, natural light, sounds awesome. But if the sun shines in through that window and you still have 4 hours to work on the day and you're in constant sunlight and maybe the curtains are not really blocking out all the heat, you're gonna cook by the end of the day. So that's something you really have to consider. Even I had to jury rig some basic curtain-like things to be able to block out the sunlight, because it's warming up the room, that's nice, but when it's direct sunlight, that can be quite problematic. Also, ventilation, as I mentioned, it's crucial. It's quite honestly a life and death situation sometimes. You have to be able to vent the room, and especially if it's a smaller room, you're gonna use up oxygen extremely quickly. And it's not just going to be that the air will be unpleasant and stinky or anything like that. You will get dizzy and you can literally faint or have any issues like that. So have some way of ventilation, like at least an opening to another room or some window that you can open, which is not opening to a highway or anything like that. Because if you have to sit 6, 8, maybe 10 hours in one place, in one room working, you need oxygen, and otherwise your brain functions will get lower and lower, and you will hardly be able to concentrate by the end of the day, and even have problems staying awake and all that. Posture. You have to be able to sit comfortably where you are. In office environment, like in a supposed normal office environment, usually companies, if they are not really cheaping out on these things, do provide you with quality ergonomic chairs. I don't think that people have those kind of chairs at home because those chairs are amazingly expensive, like really horribly expensive. Just to give you an average about that, a proper ergonomic chair that you can actually use for several hours can cost up to like a very solid monthly wage here in Hungary. So it's like quite a lot of money, like going into $1,000 or even more. Some of them are like in $3,000 costs, but those are usually for like dispatcher centers and all that. But an actual ergonomic chair and not some basic gamer chair, then it can cost quite a lot. And even this wasn't that expensive, but it wasn't the cheapest. This is a relic from the time when I still had money. But it's quite comfortable, but not to the level as an ergonomic chair would be. So you have to be careful about that. Posture wise, it is recommended to really sit properly and have the proper lumbar support and everything in place, and pay attention to that. And also have a 10-minute break every hour. If your company doesn't provide it, most likely they are, let's just say, not exactly on top of the labor laws, especially in Hungary, because here for sitting screen-based work, for every hour you need to get 10 minutes break to stand up and move away from the desk, move around, or just be able to do something else, so you're not constantly sitting there. Because constant sitting, it's not just that your back is going to hurt or your neck or anything like that. Because you're actually sitting on the prime veins and the arteries in your back side, basically, and your thighs. And the blood flow is basically kind of interrupted and squeezed down, so it's not working properly. So that can lead to varicose veins in your legs and even more serious issues. So you have to move your legs, you have to be able to move. Also, your back, it's gonna hurt, but there are some exercises that can help you with it. Usually companies provide you with information about it, some minor movement things. One of the best that can help you kind of realign your spine, because some of the vertebrae are really highly impacted by this constant sitting position, is just either raise your arms and just flex them up like this while you're sort of closing your shoulder blades, or just simply flex them back in this V shape, like really twisting your back into it. And this one is going to flex the muscles that are sort of stretched out when you're working at a desk, at a computer. And this is a pretty good way to counter the negative effects. That's what I've been doing, and I've been sitting at desks for the last like 20 years, so I do speak from experience, and I know how much those things can hurt. And also, most likely, you will notice first that your back hurts, but when it's pinching a nerve, it's going to have an effect on everything around you. So you will think that it's your liver, it's your spleen, it's something with your lungs doesn't work properly, something is aching like a sore muscle or cramping and all that. But it's all coming from your vertebrae, so you have to pay attention to that. Now, in the situation when a company not just doesn't provide you with the equipment, but they offer you to use your own equipment. Now, that's a different story. For that, you really need to be prepared, and hopefully you are a bit tech savvy, so you know what to do with the computer and how to handle them properly, because you're going to need to install a whole bunch of stuff, and and set up a whole bunch of encryption and VPN and Citrix-based things and all that. So it's good if you already at least have read about those things. Other than that, basically, your computer needs to be fairly strong, especially in matters of multitasking. So regarding that, I would say that the minimum CPU or processor that you should have should at least be a quad core design, so at least 4 cores. Going lower than that, dual core, if you can still find anything like that, might be able to work, but I would highly recommend against it, because in these home office jobs, especially if it's like a call center or service desk or anything like that, your computer will need to deal with multiple processes at the same time, like handling a phone conversation, incoming, outgoing voice data, maybe some video calls at the same time. It has to be running a conference maybe, or other chat and email-based communications. So it's going to be more of an impact than what you usually use your computer for. Because even if you're just playing games on computers, on your machine, most likely those games are just using a single core from the processor. But this kind of work where you have to deal with multiple systems at the same time, 2 cores or a single core is not going to cut it. It's going to be so slow because it has to share that one piece of resource between all the processes. It's going to fail and it's going to burn out, basically. So at least a quad core machine, if possible, go maybe a bit higher with 6 cores or more. But a quad core should be enough for the basic tasks. Regarding RAM, random access memory, please go with at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. Even some company computers are delivered with 8 gigabytes. 8 gigabytes are not going to cut it. 8 gigabytes of memory will be eaten up by some certain infamous browsers within a second. Like, it's highly pathetic, to be honest, when you're sitting in the middle of the workday and suddenly the system says that you ran out of memory because that certain browser gobbled up all the resources of the machine, and you're like, this is supposed to be a company computer? This is quite ridiculous. So if you can use your own computer, go with at least 16 gigabytes of RAM to make sure that you don't run out of resources, because some of the applications are just taking everything for themselves. In case of using a laptop, I would advise, unless your laptop screen is full HD, like 1080p or higher, unless you have something like that, I would advise to get an external screen, an external monitor. Full HD preferably or higher, because some of the laptops are delivered with such a squashed or in general small screens that you're gonna have a really difficult time seeing what's happening there, especially in multiple systems, and especially if you have to use some sort of VPN to connect to a virtual machine, then everything will be squeezed into one window. And then within that one window, you have to deal with things, and sometimes you won't even see the full menus that you have to work with. So everything will be slowed down. So please try to get an external monitor, hook it up to the laptop, and project everything on that. So you have a full view on your work environment. In certain cases, it can be also beneficial to basically have the company's VPN running in a way that it's displayed on the main monitor, on the big one where you see everything, and everything else that's for your own use or all that is on the main display of the laptop. And that way you're not mixing up the two, and it can help you with just keeping separate the processes of the daily work. Now, apart from these, of course, mouse and keyboard is a basic, so it's not, hopefully that doesn't have to be explained to anyone. But please use wired devices, wired mouse, wired keyboard. in the middle of a call, in the middle of an emergency situation, in the middle of a meeting, nobody's going to wait for you to replace the batteries in the mouse. Nobody's going to accept that you couldn't respond in time in a chat conversation because the battery in your keyboard ran out. So using wireless devices, just no, don't. In general, I would advise against them. But regarding working from home, definitely do not use any of these. Internet connection. Now, that's another one. Internet connection, get the strongest possible one in your neighborhood. If it's fiber optic, that's the best because that's going to have a really, really low level, basically zero loss in signal, and it will not be affected by storms unless something happens with the distributions and the switches and all that. But in general, when you have analog internet or through a coax cable and things like that, that's gonna be impacted every time there's a storm or a heavy rain or anything like that. Ever since we switched over to fiber optic and a pretty strong one, so 2 gigabit one, basically we never had an issue. We had amazingly strong thunderstorms and wind in 120 kilometers per hour. Nothing happened. So it just keeps running, and it's awesome. And even within the house, especially for the computer that you're using for work, use a wired connection, use a LAN cable and have that connected, because using Wi-Fi is going to ridiculously slow down everything. Although some Wi-Fis are amazingly good, are amazingly strong and all that, but they are simply incapable of reaching the level of what a cable connection is possible to deliver. Wi-Fi has this negative effect that a lot of people don't know about it, that it constantly has to reconfirm and ask for the data and the details of the data. So there's a constant back and forth between the router and the computer, and that is causing a huge amount of delay. So no, don't go with Wi-Fi. Don't even dream about it. Wi-Fi is fine for just normal civilian use, but for work, use a cable connection, and if possible, at least Cat 5e or Cat 6. Cat 7 is not needed because that's way beyond anything that would be fully used nowadays. And also, after the router that you get from the main connection, going over 1,000 megabit whatever level is not reasonable, because every switch and everything just goes up to 1,000, so whatever. So you don't need that. So just stick with Cat 5e, Cat 6 cables, and that way you can ensure that there's a solid connection and fast connection for all data transfers. Now, another thing that seems to be a bit puzzling for people working from home office: if you're responsible for taking calls, then please try to get a proper headset. Not specifically gaming headset or anything like that, something that is properly designed for work, hopefully has some sort of noise cancellation and things like that. I don't want to advertise anything because I'm not in contract with anyone. This is just one of the tools that I've been using for quite some time, and several companies are giving this type of headset, highly recognizable by this red cable. Basically, have something that covers both your ears, because working like this with just one ear covered and the other one is just to keep it on your head, that's going to be really annoying, and you will be distracted by other noises and all that. So have something for both your ears, and the mic, of course, should be available on it. What is really important, if you're using a headset, make sure that it's one with a USB connection so that you can see it properly with the background. So USB connection headset. I've seen a couple of people trying to use analog headsets, so with the 3.5 jack plug. that has a tendency to get not just get an echo, but to generate its own echo. Even if it's connected properly, it can have all sorts of signals and have a really bad audio quality. And especially those type of analog headsets have a really difficult time handling like audio conferences and Skype conversations and all that. So I've had really bad experiences with them, and as I've heard, especially in the last few weeks, a lot of people have issues with them. So USB connection headset covering both your ears with microphone, and that should be something that is really ideal for working in audio departments or voice-based communication. Now, apart from these, the next one would be heating. Make sure that the room where you are is properly heated or cooled, especially in summer, so that it doesn't get unpleasant during the day. If nothing else works, then try to get a small electric heater or something just under the table and just activate it when it gets a bit unpleasant. It warms it up, and then just deactivate it, turn it off. But anyhow, make sure that you can regulate the heating within the room, because you will get situations, for example, when you're already working for a few hours, like 3-4 hours, you're already starting to get hungry, but it's not your lunch break yet. The calories in your body are used up and you will feel cold. So you will need, unless you can just squeeze in a few chocolate bars or anything, you will need to heat up your immediate surroundings. Also, after eating, your blood sugar goes up, you feel hot, you basically start to get maybe even sweaty or so. You need to be able to compensate for that and make sure that you're not getting overheating or anything like that, because that can be quite unpleasant when you're in a call and you feel that everything is just heating up around you. So heating is also important. Since I mentioned food, make sure that you are prepared for your lunch. Most companies will provide you with half an hour lunch break. Some of them will provide you with 1 hour, but most likely you will have to work that off, meaning that you have to spend 9 hours with them, whatever. That's a different story. Basically, regarding food, have everything prepared and make sure that when you have your lunch, it's not for you to start cooking your lunch. You have to be able to prepare it very quickly and have it ready. Just throw it in the microwave, heat it up in a few minutes, and then be able to eat it. Because you will have to go back and sit down, and most likely you will not have the chance to finish your lunch while you're already back on the calls. So that requires a bit of preparation in that regards. Also, collaboration with family. Please make sure that if you're working from home, if your job requires constant attention, like you have to be at the computer and taking calls, checking emails or things like that, so you're not at liberty to just stand up from the desk and go outside or check the door or anything like that. Please make sure that you build up a bit of cooperation with your family members, and that if somebody rings, they have to get it, they have to check the door, and they have to respond to these things, because you are basically not allowed to stand up and go meet the mailman or things like that, unless it's just exactly in your break. But yeah, this will require cooperation. Because if you're in a call or in a meeting or in a training session, nobody will accept you that, oh, you just needed to jump out. No, isn't there anyone else who can get it? Because you're at work. If you would be in the office building, you wouldn't be able to do this. So you have to treat your home office as an actual office in that regards. So basically, I hope you find this useful. If you enjoyed it, then likes are highly appreciated. If you'd like to see more of these type of videos, then please subscribe. And if you know someone who would benefit from this video, or maybe even a team of new hires at the company, then please share the link with them. And if you would wish to support me in any other ways, then you can do that by supporting me via Patreon, where I'm sharing early access and some exclusive content. Also, you could buy any of the products from Redbubble with my designs on them, or a copy or two of the Adventures of the Smallest Astronaut coloring storybook for kids, available in all regions of Amazon. So I hope you enjoy this, and thank you for your time. Bye.